The Darkest Dungeon. Oh man, I've been wanting to do a review for the Darkest Dungeon for so long. I think even today, this is the game that had the most amount of time on Steam. It is so freaking hard and so amazing. The graphics, look at the graphics. Just look at this shit. This is like incredible. It's like some kind of like flash drawing that doesn't suck. So anyway, the Darkest Dungeon, you get in there, you're like going, I think you inherited something for your uncle or some shit like that, and you know, you've got the dungeon, and so it's on your property, and you're like, you know, we gotta clean these evil monsters out, and so you hire a bunch of mercenaries to do it, and they go in there and they get their asses kicked, man. They come out blooming insane and whatever, and you like gotta send them off to the asylum or the church. They could get them like depossessed or whatever it is, and they take so much damage. It's like, well, I just need to hire me some more guys, and you end up slowly building up your town off of the treasure that the mercenaries bring back, and you build up teams of mercenaries, and you have like huge squads, and you've got to go in, you got to get the dungeon, but they might be hugely damaged when they get out. Oh, you got to just use a different mercenary or whatever, and then you're like, well, you know what, probably the best way to play this is just bring in some mercenaries, make them insane until they're not very valuable, and fire their ass. That's how you actually are supposed to play. And so you can't get like super attached to one guy or whatever it is, or if you do like one guy, you better sit his ass in town where you don't actually have to, you know, get his chance to get killed, because the game is so brutal and it just kills you over and over and over again. And there's these like cool little shrines or whatever you'll find in the dungeon. The dungeons are randomly generated, and you want to bring enough equipment with you that you can apply to these little shrines to get more bonus goodies out of them. And so like there's like this huge like meta game. It's like, well, what mercenary do I bring in? What equipment do I have that's often the equipment's more valuable than the mercenary himself. And like is the mercenary is he insane? What's his abilities? What spot and slot do you want to put him in versus the other characters? And if he gets moved out of that slot or pushed, or if he doesn't attack and he moves forward or whatever, what positioning do I need to keep him in? And that's how you make your team up. And like what on the only top of that is like certain mercenaries like the Plague Doctor are very good in certain areas of the dungeon. And I think the Knight's very good against undead or whatever it is. And so you kind of end up building these sets of teams as you go into various dungeons. So not only you need to worry about your team, how good they are, you need to worry about what gear you take with you into the shrine. I mean, so you can get shrines and torches and things like that. So and then there's like tiers of dungeons. Like, do you go to a short dungeon? Do you go to a long dungeon that has like, it's got much more chance of getting good treasures, but the risk of dying is much more, and you need to take more with you. And this like huge meta operation of preparing and strategizing, and you're taking on the role that you're not really the heroes, you're the guy who's setting all this shit up. And the heroes, if they die, oh fucking well, just build you a big graveyard, throw their ass in there, and just hire some more. The problem, I can only really talk about the game from how it launched, and I'm not talking about the the early access. I heard about this game. I was not going to play it till it was finished, and so the one I played, it was I don't know what version, 1.0, I don't know what it was, but it was when the Darkest Dungeon itself, the particular actual dungeon, the final boss dungeon, so you can beat the game, which that was released in it. And there was a couple of problems with grinding up to get to be a high enough level to do the actual dungeon. And I mean, minor spoilers, I guess, at least in the version I played, once your guys, if they successfully did one of the levels in the Darkest Dungeon, I think it was like 4 of them or whatever, but they retired and they would not go back into the dungeon. So you would need like 4 sets of teams to actually go into, to be able to beat the game. And building up those guys, getting them good, you have to learn how to do the shrine, and you're using the shrines to help you get more treasure. You want to bring out more treasure than you're putting into it. And you also want to, no matter how fucked up your mercenary is, you probably wanted to bring his gear out at least, so you didn't want him to die. It became very grindy to try to figure out this like intense learning curve, because I've never played a game like this before, and it's just so grindy to get your 4 teams up, to get them all good. And not only that, you would have other teams, because if you're going to send the team into the actual in-game dungeon, they need to be absolutely the best characters that they could be, with no damn negative status things or whatever it is. And you would have to pay a large amount of money to get these little negative status things that they brought out of the dungeons with them, to get them up and make sure that they're only positive, make sure that they're only good. And so you would have other teams to support your main teams, and it comes as like this big convoluted mess to try to do it. Now, I heard later on they added like a merchant type mercenary or something like that, who wasn't good at fighting, but he was good at bringing treasure out. And they might have done some more balance changes, because it took me over 100 hours to beat it. And the problem is, even with all these graphics, awesome graphics, and cool music, and the announcer is real badass, "You've gone insane," or whatever it is, and he talks shit. But even with all that amazing stuff, there's only probably about 20 hours of game there, and they stretched it to like 100. And I could see a lot of people, even if they really liked it and were down for the challenge, were like, why does this shit just keep going on? And I know there's probably speedrunners who have taken this game to pieces or whatever, but was thinking just what the version I played, it would probably be like 60 hours if you knew exactly what you were doing to take it out. But it's so unique in what it was and at the time that, I mean, it took me a lot. It took me a whole lot. I ended up really liking these characters here. This is my set team. I love the guy, I forgot his name, the old man with the little mace and stuff. He was a defender class. He would deflect the moves. The freaking berserker up in the front line. And it was so fun. And you would be able to, like, you know, they have various special abilities, but you can, like, customize your character a little bit. And so you would customize this team and I ended up making a team that was good for all content. Had one time trouble against one of the bosses or whatever. It was like a rush down boss. My teams were defensive oriented. But dude, this game was so great. Extremely cruel. But even if you're not going to go through all the way and beat it, I still recommend getting it. I don't think it's that much. I don't know what it runs these days, but it's a must-own game, and it's probably one of the games of, you know, this generation, I'm thinking. And dude, why don't you have it? It's so great. Darkest Dungeon, go in and get fucked, okay?